Imagine this. You wake up one morning, the sunlight is streaming through your window, and for the first time in years, you feel a strange sense of clarity. You sit up, your mind unusually quiet, and it hits you. A question so simple yet so profound that it stops you in your tracks. What if the dream job you've been chasing doesn't exist? You've spent years, maybe decades, building your life around this idea. You've sacrificed weekends, relationships, and even your health for the promise of that perfect career. You've told yourself, once I get there, everything will fall into place. But now, as you sit there, the weight of that question presses down on you like a stone. What if the dream job is just that, a dream, a mirage that keeps you running in circles, always chasing, never arriving? Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, "I've found my dream job," only to watch them burn out, grow disillusioned, or quietly admit years later that it wasn't what they thought it would be? How many people do you know who've climbed the corporate ladder only to find emptiness at the top? And yet, we keep chasing. We keep believing that somewhere out there, the perfect job is waiting for us, one that will fulfill us, define us, and make us whole. But here's the paradox. The more we chase this ideal, the more it seems to slip through our fingers. The harder we work to achieve it, the more we feel like we're failing. And the closer we think we're getting, the more we realize how far we still have to go. It's a cruel trick of the mind, a psychological trap that keeps us perpetually unsatisfied, always yearning for something just out of reach. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we tie our self-worth, our identity, and even our sense of purpose to a job? Is it because society tells us to? Because we've been conditioned to believe that success equals happiness? Or is it something deeper, something primal, a need to prove our worth, to leave a mark, to matter? And what happens when we finally get that dream job, or at least what we thought was the dream job? Do we feel fulfilled, or do we find ourselves asking, is this it? Do we realize, with a sinking feeling, that the dream was never about the job itself, but about something we've been missing all along? Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, staring out at the horizon. The wind is in your hair, the sun is setting, and for the first time, you allow yourself to consider the unthinkable. What if the dream job isn't the answer? What if it's not the key to happiness or fulfillment or even meaning? What if it's just another distraction, another way to avoid the real work, the work of figuring out who you are and what you truly want? This is where the journey begins, not with answers, but with questions, not with certainty, but with doubt, and not with chasing, but with stopping long enough to ask yourself, what if I've been looking in the wrong place all along? Let's go deeper. Let's uncover the hidden forces that keep us trapped in this cycle, the psychological and philosophical roots of our obsession with the dream job. Because only by understanding why we chase it can we begin to break free. The dream job. It's a phrase so ubiquitous, so deeply ingrained in our collective psyche, that we rarely stop to question it. But where does this idea come from? Why do we believe, with such fervor, that the perfect job will bring us happiness, fulfillment, and meaning? To understand this, we must dig into the psychological and philosophical forces that shape our desires, forces that are often invisible, yet profoundly powerful. Let's start with psychology. From a young age, we're conditioned to believe that our worth is tied to our achievements. Think back to your childhood. Were you praised for getting good grades, winning awards, or excelling in extracurricular activities? Were you told you can be anything you want to be, as long as you worked hard enough? This is the foundation of the dream job myth. The belief that success, defined by societal standards, will bring us happiness. This is where Carl Jung's concept of the shadow comes into play. Jung believed that we all have a shadow, a part of ourselves that we repress or deny, because it doesn't align with our idealized self-image. For many of us, the dream job is a way to avoid confronting our shadow. We pour ourselves into our careers, hoping that success will mask our insecurities, our fears, and our doubts. But the shadow doesn't disappear. It lingers, whispering to us in moments of quiet, reminding us that no amount of external achievement can fill the void within. Now, let's turn to philosophy. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." This idea, that meaning is the antidote to suffering, is at the heart of our obsession with the dream job. We believe that if we can just find the right career, It will give us a sense of purpose, a reason to get out of bed in the morning. But Nietzsche also warned against what he called idols, false beliefs that we cling to in order to avoid facing the harsh realities of life. The dream job, in many ways, is one of these idols. It's a comforting illusion, a way to avoid asking the deeper questions. Who am I? What do I truly want? What is my purpose? Arthur Schopenhauer took this idea even further. He argued that human desire is inherently insatiable. We're always striving for something, more money, more status, more success. But the moment we achieve it, we're already looking for the next thing. This is what Schopenhauer called the pendulum of pain and boredom. When we're striving for a goal, we're in pain. When we achieve it, we're bored. And so, the cycle continues, endlessly. The dream job is just another swing of the pendulum. But perhaps the most insidious force behind our obsession with the dream job is societal conditioning. We live in a world that glorifies productivity, ambition, and achievement. We're bombarded with messages from social media, advertising, and even well-meaning friends and family that tell us we should be doing more, achieving more, being more. The dream job becomes a way to measure our worth, to prove that we're keeping up with the Joneses. But as Jean-Paul Sartre famously said, hell is other people. When we base our self-worth on external comparisons, we're setting ourselves up for endless dissatisfaction. And then there's the role of fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being ordinary. The dream job becomes a shield, a way to protect ourselves from these fears. But in doing so, we trap ourselves in a gilded cage. We sacrifice our authenticity, our creativity, and even our happiness for the sake of an ideal that may never come to pass. So, what's the solution? How do we break free from this cycle? The first step is to recognize that the dream job is not the problem. The problem is our belief that it will solve all our problems. The problem is our reliance on external validation, our avoidance of the shadow, and our fear of confronting the deeper questions of life. But breaking free is not easy. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to question everything we've been taught. It requires us to step off the treadmill, to stop chasing, and to start listening to ourselves, to our inner voice, to the quiet wisdom that we've been ignoring for so long. This is where the real work begins, not in finding the perfect job, but in understanding why we're looking for it in the first place. The dream job is not just an idea. It's a force that shapes our lives in ways we often don't realize. It influences the decisions we make, the relationships we build, and even the way we see ourselves. But what happens when this force goes unchecked? What are the unseen consequences of chasing a dream that may never come true? Let's start with the most obvious consequence: burnout. In our relentless pursuit of the dream job, we push ourselves to the brink. We work long hours, sacrifice our health, and neglect our relationships, all in the name of success. But as Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and author of Man's Search for Meaning, observed, what man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal. The problem is, the dream job is often not a worthwhile goal, at least not in the way we imagine it to be. It's a mirage, a moving target that keeps us running in circles. And the more we chase it, the more exhausted we become. But burnout is just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies a deeper, more insidious consequence: the erosion of identity. When we tie our self-worth to our job, we risk losing sight of who we are outside of it. We become so focused on achieving, on proving ourselves, that we forget to simply be. This is what existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre warned against when he wrote, "We are our choices." If our choices are driven solely by the pursuit of a dream job, then we are, in a sense, reducing ourselves to that pursuit. We become one-dimensional, defined not by our values, our passions, or our relationships, but by our careers. And then there's the impact on our relationships. The dream job doesn't just demand our time and energy. It demands our attention, our focus, our emotional bandwidth. We become so consumed by our ambitions that we neglect the people who matter most. We cancel plans, miss important moments, and prioritize work over connection. Over time, this can lead to isolation, resentment, and even the breakdown of relationships. As the philosopher Martin Buber once said, "All real living is meeting." But how can we truly meet others? How can we truly connect when we're so preoccupied with chasing a dream? Another unseen consequence is the stifling of creativity. When we're fixated on the dream job, we become risk-averse. We stick to the safe path, the one that promises stability and success. But creativity thrives on uncertainty, on experimentation, on the willingness to fail. As Friedrich Nietzsche put it, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. The dream job, with its promise of security and status, often robs us of that chaos, and with it, our ability to create, to innovate, to truly express ourselves. And then there's the toll on our mental health, the constant striving, the fear of failure, the pressure to succeed. It all takes a toll. Anxiety, depression, and even physical illness can result from the relentless pursuit of an unattainable ideal. As Gabor Mate, the renowned physician and author, explains, our culture's obsession with achievement and productivity comes at a cost to our health, our happiness, and our humanity. But perhaps the most profound consequence of all is the loss of meaning. When we chase the dream job, we often do so at the expense of our deeper values and desires. We sacrifice our passions, our curiosities, and our sense of purpose for the sake of a goal that may never bring us fulfillment. As Viktor Frankl wrote, man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life. But when we conflate meaning with career success, we risk missing the point entirely. The dream job, in other words, is not just a harmless aspiration. It's a powerful force that shapes our lives in ways we often don't realize. It affects our health, our relationships, our creativity, and even our sense of self. And the longer we chase it, the more we risk losing sight of what truly matters. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be this way. There is a way out of this cycle, a way to reclaim our lives and our sense of purpose. It begins with a radical shift in perspective, one that challenges everything we've been taught about success, happiness, and the dream job. Breaking free from the dream job trap is not about quitting your job or abandoning ambition. It's about redefining what success means to you. It's about shifting your focus from external validation to internal fulfillment. It's about reclaiming your life from the relentless pursuit of an ideal that may never bring you the happiness you seek. The first step in this rebellion is to question the narrative you've been sold. Who told you that the dream job was the key to happiness? Was it society, your parents, the media? Once you identify the source of this belief, you can begin to challenge it. Ask yourself, is this really what I want? Or is it what I've been conditioned to want? This is where the work of philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre becomes invaluable. Sartre argued that we are condemned to be free, that we have the power to choose our own path, even in the face of societal expectations. But with that freedom comes responsibility. It's up to you to decide what truly matters to you, not what others tell you should matter. Next, you must confront your shadow. As Carl Jung explained, the shadow is the part of yourself that you repress or deny, because it doesn't align with your idealized self-image. For many of us, the dream job is a way to avoid confronting our shadow, our fears, our insecurities, our doubts. But until you face these parts of yourself, you'll remain trapped in the cycle of chasing external validation. Start by asking yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I trying to prove? What am I running from? These questions may be uncomfortable, but they are essential for growth. Once you've begun to confront your shadow, the next step is to redefine success. This is where Viktor Frankl's wisdom can guide you. Frankl believed that meaning is the primary motivation in life, and that it can be found in three ways: through work, through relationships, and through the attitude we take towards suffering. But here's the key. Meaning is not something you find, it's something you create. Instead of chasing the dream job, ask yourself, what kind of work would feel meaningful to me? What kind of relationships do I want to build? How can I find meaning in the challenges I face? This shift in perspective requires a radical act of self-trust. You must learn to listen to your inner voice, the one that's been drowned out by societal expectations, external pressures, and your own fears. This is not easy. It requires courage, vulnerability, and a willingness to be wrong. But as Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Trusting yourself means embracing that chaos, that uncertainty, and using it as a catalyst for growth. Another crucial step is to detach your self-worth from your job. This doesn't mean you shouldn't take pride in your work. It means recognizing that your value as a human being is not determined by your career. You are not your job title, your salary, or your level of success. You are a complex, multifaceted individual with inherent worth. As the philosopher Alan Watts once said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. And yet, everybody rushes around in a great panic, as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. To break free from the dream job trap, you must also embrace imperfection. The dream job is, by definition, an ideal, a perfect, unattainable standard. But life is messy, unpredictable, and imperfect. Instead of striving for perfection, strive for authenticity. Ask yourself, what would it look like to live a life that feels true to me, even if it's not perfect? This shift from perfectionism to authenticity can be incredibly liberating. Finally, you must learn to embrace uncertainty. The dream job offers the illusion of security, but true freedom lies in embracing the unknown. As the existentialist philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know exactly where you're going. All you need is the courage to take the next step, even if the path ahead is unclear. Breaking free from the dream job trap is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. It requires constant self-reflection, courage, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. But the rewards are immense. When you stop chasing the dream job and start living a life that feels true to you, you'll find a sense of fulfillment that no job could ever provide. Here it is, the ultimate truth, the realization that changes everything. The dream job was never about the job. It was about you. All this time, you've been chasing an external ideal, believing that it would fill the void within. You've been searching for meaning, purpose, and fulfillment outside of yourself, hoping that the right career would provide the answers. But the truth is, no job, no matter how perfect, can give you what you're truly seeking. Because what you're seeking isn't out there, it's within you. This is the paradox at the heart of the dream job myth. We chase it because we believe it will make us whole, but in doing so, we neglect the very thing that could actually make us whole, ourselves. As Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." The dream job is a dream, an illusion that keeps us looking outward. But awakening comes from looking inward, from confronting our fears, embracing our imperfections, and discovering who we truly are. This realization is both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it means you no longer have to chase an unattainable ideal. Terrifying because it means you must take full responsibility for your own happiness and fulfillment. There's no job, no boss, no career path that can do this for you. It's up to you. But here's the beautiful part. When you stop chasing the dream job and start focusing on yourself, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see that the qualities you were seeking in the dream job, purpose, meaning, fulfillment, are already within you. You don't need a job to give you these things. You just need to uncover them. This is where Viktor Frankl's wisdom becomes especially poignant. Frankl, who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, discovered that even in the most unimaginable circumstances, humans have the capacity to find meaning. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." In other words, meaning is not something you find in a job or a title or a salary. It's something you create through your choices, your actions, and your attitude. So, what does this mean for you? It means that the dream job is not the destination. It's not the answer. It's not even the question. The real question is, who am I and what do I truly want? This is the question that will guide you toward a life of authenticity, purpose, and fulfillment. And here's the most powerful part. When you stop chasing the dream job and start living a life that feels true to you, something magical happens. The job you end up with, whether it's the one you have now or one you find along the way, becomes a reflection of your inner self. It becomes a vehicle for expressing who you are, rather than a mask you wear to impress others. This is the ultimate truth. The dream job was never about the job. It was about you. It was about your journey, your growth, your awakening. And now that you know this, you have the power to rewrite the script. You have the power to create a life that feels true to you, not because it looks good on paper, but because it resonates with your soul. So, take a moment to breathe, to reflect, to ask yourself, what would it look like to live a life that feels true to me? Not a life that looks perfect to others, but a life that feels authentic, meaningful, and alive. This is your moment, your awakening, your chance to step off the treadmill and into the life you were meant to live. The dream job was never the answer. You are.